Hello, and welcome to uh, the Knights of the Highlands as 3.5 Dungeons & Dragons characters video 5, Sir Shirl Ravenlock, Lady of Raventree. So, Shirl is unique among the Knights of the Highlands. She is the only female member, and that's true for both Belegarth and the game. So I wanted to do her model kind of towards the front to kind of demonstrate we have at least one gal, and also I wanted to, as promised, kind of give you someone who's got some magic on their character sheet. So we'll dig into the model and then we'll dig into the character sheet. So the first thing that's important to note is that Shirl is an elf in Belegarth, and so she's recently even started, wearing the rubber ears and really like digging into elf culture, and so that's reflected here in her model. Colors on her model are Retributor armor, Castellan green. The fletchings are Mechanicus standard gray, as well as that little gap there under her surcoat. The dark teal itself is Stegodon green, and then her hair is done in Thousand Suns blue, and then her bow is done, and pouches are done in, or I guess it's a book, are done in Mornfang brown. And then the skin is done in Rakarath flesh. So she's kind of one of the better paint jobs that I was able to achieve with the model. For some reason, her model didn't come quite so porous, and just kind of the way it's standing and the way the model came out, it came out with a lot more detail than some of the others did. So she's probably the best kind of intricate paint job that I've got there. You can kind of see the gold vembraces. Her shoes are green with the little bit of gold on them. Her surcoat is that dark teal. Shirl's colors are dark teal and copper, and so the gold is Retributor armor, and then the kind of copper that's on her vembraces and the details on her surcoat are Balthazar gold, which is like a deeper kind of dwarvy bronze gold. So that's the last color that's there. If you've seen Shirl recently, you also know that she is dyeing her hair green, blue, tealy, and so that's reflected there with the Thousand Suns blue on her hair. And then she has it done there. 2 quivers for Shirl. That'll come up on her character sheet. And then, so yeah, there's kind of a look at the model from all angles. I had a lot of fun painting this one. I'm sure everyone listening to this knows, but in case you're watching this without knowing us, Shirl is my little sister. And so, to my knowledge, we make up the only brother-sister knight pair in all Belegarth, which is kind of a neat deal for us. But yeah, and then she's got that model has a really cool, like, elven bow, which will be reflected on her character sheet. So, there's the model. Like I said, I had a ton of fun painting it. Turned out pretty good. So let's transition now to the character sheet. So we're looking here. Shirl is, not only is she the only lady, she's also been landed in Belegarth. The Kingdom of Wrath, where we sword fight, has gifted her land for her service. So she has, both in Bel and in the game, a lordly, like, noble title. And so that's reflected here on her character sheet. We see Duskblade 6, Arcane Archer 8, for an ECL of 14. Worshipping Selune, blue hair, gray eyes. That's very much her reality. Looking there at the stat block, 16 strength, high dex, 12 con, which is also reflective of her reality. If you know Shirl, she's got a bad knee. She's had a couple of surgeries, so super reflective of her actual constitution. A very high intelligence as well. For those of you that don't know, Shirl's a graduate student and holds multiple bachelor's degrees, so having a high intelligence is kind of her thing, and then wisdom and charisma there. Her land speed, you notice her speed is reduced to 25 feet. That's reflective of her injuries, which fluff-wise or lore-wise are reflected in both the character sheet and the way she'll be played in the game. They're the grapple mod. Her initiative modifier is +5. That's reflective of her dex. Going through the saves, 13 fortitude, 13 reflex, 10 will. There's the armor, 22 armor, and then she has on her character sheet there, +1 magic eating padded armor. In order to fully do the Duskblade and Arcane Archer stuff, as well as take full advantage of her +6 dexterity bonus for her armor, for her AC. The padded armor was as high as we could get, so I made it magical, and then also kind of gave it this magic eating property. So since Shirl doesn't have, she's an archer, she might get caught on her own, and therefore she's really, susceptible to ray attacks or, magic missile, those kind of things. I gave them magic eating capacity, which sucks up a spell, and then translates, that it heals hit points equal to the spell level. So if you're ready for it, you can suck up a spell. She's also got a floating light wooden shield. Shirl sometimes wears a backpack shield when she arches, so this is kind of reflecting of that. She can throw it out, it'll float. And then 108 hit points up there. It's on the low side. Elves typically have a low con. Shirl's also only got a +1. That's the lowest con modifier of any of the Knights of the Highlands, so her hit points are understandably lower. Plus, she's rocking 2 classes that have a smaller hit die than some of the others. Moving on to page 2, we see her experience points there, just over 97,000. Sitting with the traditional adventuring gear that, if you want to know more about what's in there, you can check out Rem's video, video number 2. Then you'll see down here, Shirl has, much like Sir Geoffrey, lordly holdings. In my game, I've just translated kind of the areas where Shirl's family might come from. So she is the Lady of Raventree, which is a elf and half-elf set of lands to the north. It is not in Carinta. It's on the southern border of one of the forests. It's kind of closest to Carinta. So Shirl actually spends about 60% of her time here at the Fortress Monastery of Ebonhold, and about 40% of the time at home, where her lands are typically managed by a seneschal, which I haven't decided anything about that seneschal. That's as far as I got. So then she's also got that knight's livery, which I also talked about in Rem's video, everything you need to be a knight. Moving down to her magic items, she's got the lenses of bright vision, which, if you know Shirl, she wears glasses, so that's kind of a way I can translate that. Ring of Protection +3. She's got a Ring of Spell Battle, since she is one of just a couple arcanists among the Knights of the Highlands. Bracers of Accuracy, which makes her shooting easier. And then the Magic Eating Padded Armor, and a Formless Vest. The Formless Vest is pretty neat. It'll let you kind of nopes out of some attacks, which, you kind of need when you're all set there, from the archery standpoint. So then on the actual character sheet, moving to that third page, which here is shown blank, and I know I promised that I would show you guys some things, a character that had something on that sheet, but really what I want to point out is this top right corner, and I have Shirl done blank for you for a reason, and I actually kind of have her blank for me too. On a separate piece of paper, which I didn't scan, I kind of have some suggestions of spells, but here's what I did with the Duskblade Arcane Archer combination. Duskblades can typically only cast their spells into a melee weapon, and then Arcane Archers have to spend extra time if they want to cast a spell into an arrow. And so what I did for game rule information is I've said, if a Duskblade, and specifically only a Duskblade, wants to move into Arcane Archer, they can do so flawlessly, and I've removed that restriction. The DMG in 3.5, and I'm sure in every DMG, says game balance is most important, having fun is most important. These rules are kind of mutable if you want to make some room for, fluff or whatever you want to do, and then they really make it easy for you to kind of modify them. So in particular, with what kind of spell level she can achieve, those kind of things, I've left this blank because if you choose to modify her feats, if you're going to use Shirl, you can use her one of two ways in your game. You can either focus primarily on the archery, which with if you go back to the front page, you'll look at her magic item. Her attack option is the Bow of the Winter Moon, which that is a brutal and probably, and in my opinion, the best of the magic-specific bows. This one's taken from the Magic Item Compendium. There are a couple of versions out there. This is the one I like the best. It is a It's got extra distance. It is a strength bow, and it automatically modifies. It's a strength bow of whatever the person is holding it. So if you're a strength 8 and you pick up a bow of the Winter Moon, it's a +8 strength bow, like if you have a +8. So for Shirl, her +3 is fully utilized in this bow, but it also is Frost, which is one of the more underutilized elemental types, and Drowbane. Now, I'll talk more about this when I talk about Sir Kage's video towards the end, but Drow in Khaleesi, the whole world, are distrusted and hated even more than they are in Faerûn. I love Drizzt Do'Urden. I love Ari Salvatore's writing of him, but unfortunately for both Bellegarth to a point and really in fantasy in general, that archetype, the kind of good drow, is really overplayed. Almost every amateur fantasy author who's trying to be Ari Salvatore brings up the good drow. And so one of the things I've even played a couple of good drow, falling into that type itself. So one of the things I really wanted to do with my world is kind of put a kibosh on the good drow. And so even Sir Kage, who's a member of the Knights of the Highlands, the way he's played in this campaign, he's not at the Fortress Monastery. He's with his people, kind of as an underground spy, because he wouldn't be able to actively participate in what's going on at the Fortress Monastery. When he comes, he has to come through the Underdark. He has to make secret visits. He's not really welcome in the Peasant Lands, which makes it hard for him to be a full functioning member of the Order. But I'm going to fit him in there. I'm going to fit him in a good way that makes sense. So it makes sense then that a good elf in this world would have a Drowbane bow. So if you want to use Shirl as the archer, there's a lot of stuff you can do. I'm about to switch over to her feats. But kind of, if you want to utilize her more as the magician, you can do that as well. She's got a very high intelligence. If you do that, you can change some of her feats as I've taken them and kind of get her a higher spell level. There are feats that increase your caster level. There are feats that increase the number of spells you can cast. I've chosen to use her kind of as a half and half. And so the max spell level can certainly change, and so I've left that blank here. If you want to run a picture of this one off and use it for yourself, you can fill them in. I've also left her spell selection kind of open. Duskblades have to pull from a specific list, and then so do Arcane Archers. So I've kind of left that open for as much customization as you can get. When we get to, you'll notice that among all the characters that I'm playing, I won't actually show a spell selection sheet. I want that to be modifiable to your games. I want it to be something that you can take and kind of change for yourselves. But you will see other characters who are far more static, especially the divine characters, who have that, here's how many spells per day they get, here's the DC, they'll have all that filled out. But in particularly for Shirl, because she does have the high dex and the high intelligence, you can utilize her either way, and she still comes out as a playable and competitive character, no matter how you do it. So let's flip over to the last page. Here we see, for the first time, really some actual racial traits. For the most part, the Knights of the Highlands are human. I kind of hinted in Dio's video that we were going to get to see some maybe exotic races, so here's the first one. So you get the low light vision, the secret door chance, the arcane attunement. Oh, sorry, the arcane attunement is from the class, but you get the elves' ability to, get a chance to find a secret door. You get their low light vision. You also have the immunity to sleep, those kind of things that all come from the standard Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 Player's Handbook elf. And then switching to the class choice, the Arcane Attunement, Armored Mage Medium, Arcane Channeling, Quick Cast, Spell Power, all from the Duskblade, and then you get the Enhanced Arrow, Imbue Arrow, Seeker Arrow, Phase Arrow, and then probably one of my favorite abilities from the Arcane Archer is Hail of Arrows, which actually lets her shoot, and this is why I choose to use her half and half as opposed to really focusing on one or the other. The Hail of Arrows lets you spend a full round, but you get to shoot one arrow at every target that's within your range increment, regardless of how many they are. So if you've got 500 goblins coming up, you can take this and shoot 500 arrows, which is kind of like a magical ability, and hit every goblin, as long as you make all the rolls, which is ridiculous. I would just lump them all together. or do them in groups. So dropping down to the feats, we got that weapon focus longbow, which is going to give her, the extra to hit, point blank shot, precise shot, reach spell. Here's something else I should mention. For touch spells in my game, I have modified as a house rule, and everyone that plays with us uses this house rule. We do not increase the spell level for reach spell. Reach spell is one of those things where, especially for the healing side of it, it really, yes, it's a benefit. So, but I think upping the spell level is kind of too much of a cost for the spell for what it does, and so I have eliminated that kind of upping the spell level as a meta magic feat. Now that means that my NPCs and my enemies can do it too, and everyone's kind of agreed that this is the better way for magic to work, and touch spells in particular. But you still have to burn a feat for it, so that's your trade-off. So Shirl's got reach spell there, and then in order to fully utilize the Bow of the Winter Moon, she had to take the True Believer feat, and so True Believer and Selune kind of unlock some of those better parts of the bow. I had an extra feat, wasn't really using it. And so it fits well there, and then of course rapid shot, and then combat casting, which kind of takes away some of the attacks of opportunity she might receive if she's kind of imbuing an arrow and shooting it in combat. We're gonna pop over to the skills. If you're gonna look at a signature skill for Shirl, it's absolutely spellcraft. She's got a plus 17 there because of some synergy bonuses, but she's also a capable writer. Got great ranks in Listen, Knowledge Nature, and of course Knowledge Arcana, which every caster needs. And then up there, her craft skill is crafting arrows. She's a Fletcher, and she kind of makes all of her own arrows in the fluff. Now, she's not the head archer for the Knights of the Highlands. We'll see that person in a later video. But so instead, in addition to being a Fletcher, Shirl is also in charge of the aviary here at the Fortress Monastery. So what that means is, for both because I'm a huge Game of Thrones nerd, everyone knows that about me, we utilize the Raven system from Game of Thrones, but we also utilize, again, from the Old Kingdom series, the magical message hawk. And so since we have this kind of split aviary, Shirl is in charge of both of them. She maintains the magical message hawks as well as the mundane ravens for sending messages back and forth between castles. So she has a specific function here at the Ebonhold. So that kind of wraps up her character sheet. Taking one last look. Oh, I guess the last thing I didn't talk about was languages. As you'd expect from a magic caster, Draconic, Elven obviously being an elf, Dwarven, again, that's a hint at someone who's coming, and then Sylvan, having that kind of Elven connection with the earth and those around it. So that's Shirl. Again, I really want you to customize her spells and stuff if you're going to utilize her. I guess if there's enough interest in how I've built her spells, I can, either in a later video or kind of throw up in a forum somewhere kind of my spell choice for her. But I think I'd rather leave that for you guys to decide on your own. There are so many good ones, especially from both lists. And depending on how you want to utilize her, will change your spell selection. So I want that to be able to be something you can do. So thank you very much for checking in with this video. Looking forward to seeing you in video 6. And yeah, we'll dig into one of the kind of more public figures in the Knights of the Highlands in the next video. Thanks very much and have a great day.